meeting of Susquehanna Township Board of Commissioners. I would note that all commissioners are present with the exception of Commissioner Valona, who is overseas and excused. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence, and I would ask the pledge to be led tonight by Commissioner Pine.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you and welcome everybody to this meeting of the Board of Commissioners, September 8th, 2002. We'll begin with petitions, complaints, suggestions from citizens. Does anybody wish to address the board tonight? Yes, ma'am. Please come forward to the podium, state your name and address, and try to limit your comments to 3 minutes if you got it.
No problem. Carol Brightville, 3817 Schoolhouse Lane. Pen waste. I want to just talk about the yard waste. We now are still allowed to use yellow can. I have one, so I called and they sent me a second one. And just in case anybody's interested, we're not allowed to use those green cans anymore. The yellow can is an exact duplicate, except that it's a different color. You know, they're just ridiculous. We have cans that we can't use, and what are we going to do with them? I think that somebody could talk to them about that. I took a picture. They're absolutely every detail.
Yeah. No, I have the same cans myself.
Well,
in fact, I used those green cans last week.
right.
Or 2 weeks ago.
I had used them, and I had to go buy paper ones and repackage everything. And, you know, I don't know. I just wish somebody could solve this.
Mr. Provoca, could you have somebody reach out to?
Could you say 3817 Schoolhouse is what I have? Is that
Correct,
correct?
yes.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I will.
Yeah, I would like to just note, at the last meeting, Penn Waste did have a manager representative here, and we talked, and we have a committee meeting on September 15th to go over certain issues, and obviously this could be raised. I know I still, sometimes if I have too much in my yellow, I use my old red one, I never have issues. I'm not sure how much of an issue there is, but it'd be great to get clarification.
It just started to happen. It hasn't been an issue for years. I used wash bins, all kinds of stuff, and it never was a problem.
And who told you there was a problem?
Well, if you drive around, all the cans that are green, they wouldn't touch.
Oh,
And that's been the last 2 times.
I just had mine out this morning. They grabbed both of them, green and yellow.
well, you're talking about yard waste, though.
I'm talking about yard waste, I'm not talking about
No, not the
trash.
regular trash.
Okay, I
This
just,
is yard waste.
okay.
So that, it would be great if you could solve that.
Thanks, Mr. Provoca. Anybody else wish to address the board tonight? Okay, hearing none. Approval of the minutes from our August 25th, 2022 Board of Commissioners workshop.
I would like to so move, with this is a note on page 2, last paragraph, the word Roseville, that's one word, road, it should be Rose Hill, Hill, 2 words. Other than that correction, I would move to approve the minutes. Second.
Second with that correction. Any comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. At this point, I would respectfully request Fire Marshal Dries, Public Safety Director Martin, and Commissioners Hisbro and Fleming to approach the podium.
Commissioners, Mr. President, With all due respect, I'd like to shuffle the deck a little because one of our recipients is on the way with her baby, and she's running a little late. With that said, let's do the employee thing out of the way. Nate, please come up. Nate doesn't know this. It's the best part of this. This is the Employee Civilian Award for structure fire in Susquehanna Township. Incident number 22-000-6282, June 30th of this year, 11:20 hours in the 32-6 box. Susquehanna Township units were dispatched for a structure fire at 2034 Daybreak Circle. While driving down Walker Mill Road, Public Works Director Brogonier noticed a column of black smoke emanating from Daybreak Circle and went to investigate. Arriving on the scene, he witnessed a mulch fire that had spread to an evergreen tree and was impacting the residents. He instructed the stunned worker to call 911. He then grabbed a shovel from his truck and proceeded in beating the tree fire out and knocking down the soffit area that had begun to catch fire. As crews arrived on the scene, the fire was out with the exception of some hot spots. Public Works Director Brogonier, a former firefighter, definitely saved the structure from additional damage. He was the person who instructed the stunned worker to call 911. So, job obviously well done by one of our employees, and Progress didn't have the opportunity to do the work that they do so well. So.
Oh, we're doing pictures afterward?
Yes, afterwards.
Sorry.
All right, next one. Firefighter Otland, please step forward. Corporal Tillman?
Dipsy Tillman?
Yeah. Hi. And PFC Alex Aurora is off right now. This is a unit citation for Susquehanna Township Police Department and Tommy Otland, a firefighter with Progress Fire Company. It's a life-saving award for a structure fire with entrapment. Incident number F22-000-4257, 5th of May this year at 02:32 hours. Susquehanna Township units were dispatched for a structure fire at 2929 Birch Street. Firefighter Otland was at home and awakened by an explosion. Looking out the window, saw his neighbor's house on fire and proceeded to the front door. He gained access and woke two elderly women, residents of the first floor, and assisted their removal. Susquehanna Township Police arrived and entered the home within less than a minute's time from the actual dispatch. They met with firefighter Otland, who advised that there were two other occupants upstairs. As Otland removed the two women, officers ascended the stairs through the smoke, found the occupants, and had to carry one of them out to safety. All this was done in a smoke-charred structure with heavy flames impinging upon the exterior carport of the structure, all done with no protective gear.
In recognition that our first responders may need to take off, you want to do the pictures now?
Yeah, you guys got to go back to work. That's a chief thing.
They're off now. Angie said that she can start.
You're not going to wait for a whole meeting.
Down. Oh,
It's your call.
Yeah, do it now.
okay, do it now.
It's not my call. I want to sit there, whole meeting.
Do it now.
Come on, let's go front and center.
Tommy, you're up there, front center. Chief, you.
We're getting in the back.
Yeah.
Take a picture.
Birds are up.
Take a picture. What's it?
Really?
No, I'm good. Well, thanks.
There we go. How's that?
Move over this way, just there we go. Everybody smile, please. 1, 2, 3. One more, I don't think that went. And one more. Thank you.
Nate.
Okay.
1, 8.
Nate?
Remember you old Cuban?
Just liking us.
Even standing up here, you're still
No way.
taller than me. Sorry. It's just fun.
Chief, you in?
Are we ready? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. All right, we're good. Thank you.
We're dancing.
He never takes off his hat. He's like Burt Reynolds. He's got green hair. What's that smoke you made?
You back? The next one is a unit citation for Susquehanna Township Police Department, Squad 32, and Susquehanna Township EMS units 92 and 920, for a life-saving award cardiac arrest. So for the police department, it's Sergeant Rietheimer, Corporal Wagner, Officer Dora, and Officer Lauder. For Squad 32 Progress Fire Company, it's firefighter EMT Mahout and firefighter Jordan Underwood. And for Susquehanna Township EMS, Unit 92 and 920, it's EMT paramedic Alex Fox, EMT paramedic Angela Pinty, and EMT Vaughn Powell. It goes as such. Incident number E22-0020893 on the 19th of May of this year, 04 hours in a 32-4 box. Susquehanna Township's units were dispatched for an unresponsive male on, leave the address, off 36th Street. Susquehanna police arrived and confirmed this was a cardiac arrest and proceeded with CPR and AED shock. Squad 32 arrived and assisted with basic life support and was quickly joined by Susquehanna Township EMS to provide advanced life support. Crews worked the patient through a series of defibrillations, enhanced CPR, intubation, and drug therapy, and successfully revived the patient on scene. The patient was then taken to the hospital, admitted to the ICU, and heart cath lab. The patient was later discharged to home days later with no neurological deficits. These men and women are making huge differences on the street. If you're familiar with the new CPR, the enhanced CPR, it's basically get your hands on somebody's chest and do compressions as fast and in a proper pressure as soon as possible. So our success rates in the region have gone from 7% for cardiac arrests, for witness cardiac arrests, to 44%. That's huge, okay? And these responders that I mentioned, as well as everyone out here in the public, are making huge differences in saving people's lives. So with that, I would ask Officer Dora, and come on up. EMS is working. EMS. You have it for them. And she. And Jordan. All right. You got it.
smiles, everyone. And one more. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you. So I'm going to ask to delay the last one until the mother and the baby can get here.
Sounds good.
Okay, thanks, sir.
Sounds good. Okay, so we'll move on to the agenda. Is that right, George? George?
Say again?
Move forward in the agenda?
Yes, please, sir.
Okay. Next up is reports of committees. Buildings and grounds, Commissioner Rothrock.
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't have a whole lot to report, but our staff has moved out of the basement and they're in the new space and settling in. We still have a number of items that are, we're waiting for to finish. Some of the door locks and that type of thing, the exterior finish, just waiting for materials to come in. But pretty well functional at this time. So hopefully we'll get it done before the next meeting. Maybe not. I shouldn't February. Last time I declared something.
No, it'll happen.
That concludes my report.
It does look good. Thanks to the staff for your patience, for making it happen the way you have. It's been quite a little deal. I know. So thank you. Budget and Finance, Commissioner Fleming.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have had a meeting to discuss the township budget and the capital projects. We discussed that last meeting. Manager Provolka has laid out a schedule. I don't know if you want to go into it, but he's laid out a schedule for the presentation of the 2023 fiscal year budget. So I'll turn it over to you.
Sure, thank you, Commissioner Fleming. Just very briefly, and it is in my staff report as kind of spelled out, but the board can expect to receive a draft of the 2023 operating budget the week of October 17th. The intention is to schedule 2 meetings of the Budget and Finance Committee to review the draft budget for the week of the 24th, making any necessary modifications the week of October 31st into the first part of November, presenting a draft to the Board of Commissioners for consideration at the November 10th regular meeting with the ultimate intention of adopting on December 8th, the last meeting of the calendar year. Thank you.
That concludes our report. All right, thank you. Public Works, Commissioner Napper.
Yes, Mr. President. In the month of August, Public Works personnel performed daily checks and repairs at the sewer pumping station. The Public Works staff flushed and televised the main sanitary sewer system, as well as televised the storm system. Personnel installed new signs and repaired damaged signs, and the tree limbs were trimmed, which were covering the roadway signs. Throughout the township, personnel painted crosswalks and roadway markers as needed. In conclusion, Mr. President, speed humps were installed in the 3800 block of Schoolhouse Lane. And this ends my report, sir.
Schoolhouse Lane. Okay. Very good, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Health Committee, Health and Sanitation, Commissioner Marchek.
Thank you, Mr. President. The next yard waste that will be conducted by Penn Waste will be Saturday, September 17th. And then, as was indicated earlier, the Health Board will be meeting, I believe, on September 15th. And is that still at noon, the Health Board meeting?
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
Okay. All right, unfortunately, I won't be able to attend, but I think Commissioner Hisaro will be there. And we'll be discussing items regarding Penn Waste and their contract. And I guess at the last meeting, Penn Waste had proposed mobile carts for trash pickup in the majority of the township. So I guess that's an item they're going to be discussing as well. because our contract will be, we will discuss a renewal of the contract with them in the near future, I believe. Is that?
I think this would be outside of the contract that they're looking into.
Oh, exactly. Oh, okay.
Well,
Well, thank you for
like
the
an amendment to the
clarification.
contract if it is done.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
So if anybody has any questions or feelings on that one way or other, you're welcome to attend the health board meeting.
And the health board is going to meet in the Pickus room, or?
Yeah, we're gonna have a meeting in the Pecos room.
Okay.
I know previously they met in the Susquehanna room, but that's.
All right. So that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Admin and Personnel, Commissioner Napoli.
No report, sir.
Thank you. Police Commissioner Engel.
No reports.
Thank you, sir. Fire and EMS, Commissioner Hisro.
Yes, the committee did meet in late March. One of the primary topics were the awards that were given out tonight and will be given out. I don't want to spend too much more time other than to remind folks that next week is September 11th anniversary, and, you know, to keep all firefighters, first responders, and police, excited military in your mind for the exceptional work they did not only that day, but every day. So just keep that in mind next week.
All right. Thank you. Recreation, Commissioner Polonus not here. Do you have anything on that front?
Well, yeah, Fred is on vacation. I was on vacation at the last meeting. I'll defer to Doug Canals if he has anything he wants to report.
I would just like to mention we have a free shredding event coming up on September 17th from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. at Veterans Park. All residents are welcome to bring any sensitive documents they wish to shred, and they can actually watch their documents be shredded as well on the truck. They'll be shredded on site. Thank you.
We have popcorn.
No popcorn.
What's that?
8 a.m. to 11 a.m.
Excellent question.
Mr. President, if I may, I don't know if it's too soon to mention this, but the grants that we've received, is that something that we can discuss?
It's one of them we can.
One of them, so because of
The other
Doug's
one has-
hard work, we're receiving at least one grant, if you'd like to tell us about
Yeah,
that.
the township received a $30,000 grant from DCNR. It was announced on Tuesday as part of a $90 million award cycle for grants this year with DCNR. It's the largest in history. This grant will go towards a township-wide bicycle, pedestrian, and greenway plan.
Thank you for your work on that.
Yeah, great job. They call you the money magnet. All right. Planning and zoning, Commissioner Rothrock.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Planning Commission meeting for last month and the zoning hearing board meeting for this month were both canceled, so I have no further reports.
All right. Good, thank you. Okay, moving on to bids and agreements. First up is a public hearing on a proposed ordinance. It was advertised. This has to deal with the reapportionment, readjusting board boundaries in Susquehanna Township for Pennsylvania law. So at this point, I'm going to adjourn the meeting to go into a hearing, which will be chaired by our solicitor, Morgan Mann. Meeting's adjourned, or postponed until the hearing, which is just open. Solicitor Matt.
Thank you. Now's the time scheduled and notice for a public hearing on proposed ordinance 22-6. After the township's presentation, members of the public will have an opportunity to present comments prior to the close of the hearing. At this point, we'll receive testimony from the township manager. Mr. Provolka, can you please confirm that this meeting was properly advertised and noticed,
It was?
as well as the ordinance amendment?
It was?
And have you received proof of publication
We have?
and met all the requirements of the municipality's planning code, the first-class township code, and all other applicable statutes?
Yes, we have.
Do any members of the board have questions for the manager at this point? You
I thought you said you do.
No, no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I said I do not.
Got it. And then at this point, I will turn it back over to President Lynch for a presentation on the amendment.
Okay. I don't think there's any members of the public here that are interested in this. Maybe they are, but. There's no member of the public.
We've got one esteemed member,
Yeah.
Mr. President.
So, and I'd like to thank Betsy and Dave, particularly Betsy, for putting together a slideshow that nobody's going to see, but here we go, except for us. Susquehanna Township Ward reapportionment process. Slide. This is the process. You know, every 10 years we have to do this, and so here we are again. But we need to change ward lines every 10 years. It's required by first-class township code and by the Pennsylvania Reapportionment Act, and by super laws as well, the process, entities as well. And it's every 10 years following the report of the United States Census. And the whole purpose of this is to reflect population shifts by percentage within the township that occur, people moving, new developments coming in, that sort of thing. And the whole idea is to get to a guideline of one person, one vote kind of guidance, so that all the wards can be as equally represented as possible, recognizing that the way that census blocks are drawn up, you can't always get to absolute zero deviation from average, but try as best you can. So who recommended these new ward lines that you're about to see? It was a bipartisan committee of elected commissioners. That's Commissioner Fleming, Commissioner Pine, and myself, along with township staff, Manager Olga, and Assistant Manager Logan. And we also had some tremendous assistance from the Dauphin County elections and GIS professionals. And we're very grateful for that. It really helped us along tremendously. And again, as I said before, our goal is to get as close to zero deviation from the average as possible. Recognize it's not always possible, but it's generally recognized that if you can get within 10% of the deviation from average, you're in good shape. And of course, the closer to zero you get, the better you are. So next slide, Betsy. It's going to be tough to see maybe, but this is the population variances, wards 1 through 9. And you'll see, you know, in the current setup, variance from Ward 1 is 261 short, Ward 3 is 307 over, Ward 4 is 240 short, and I'm just doing some highlights. Ward 8 is 289 short, and that was Ward 8, and Ward 9 is 423 over. So there's a vast difference. Not like the last time we faced this 10 years ago, but there's still a big difference that has to be accounted for. So we got together with the county GIS staff, the mapping, just did a tremendous job of trying to work within the census blocks that are, you can't move around, you can't adjust the numbers. That's what the census gives you to work with. And sometimes they're very compact and neat, and sometimes they're huge. So we really helped this cycle, this 10-year cycle, because of what they did in the former second ward, which basically had run from the old Giant, you know, from Sportsman's Golf Course over to Route 322. That used to be all one bubble, you know, that contained like 2,000 people. And but the census over the previous 10 years had cut it into thirds, basically, to make it a little bit more manageable for us, as you know, result. So that we, the committee, working with the county, was able to you know, help out, add some population to Ward 1, and reducing as necessary the population in Ward 2. So that's just an example of some things that we've done. And we've talked about this at a previous meeting, but if you look at the proposed variants that we have, they're much more in line than they are currently. Like first ward is still a little bit low, but it's only 105 as opposed to 261. Ward 4 is 112 short, but it's much better than 241. And double digits for, the remaining wards is just, incredible. And the percentages there range from 7%, 5%, 0% is measured by ward, that's the third ward. 7% in the fourth ward, it's a little bit under compared to the third ward, et cetera. But, then you compare it to the average, not just the largest ward, and the variances are very small. They're all under, I think, 3.5% maybe. In any event, that's what we have. So the next slide, that's it. I think the pictures of maps. Yeah, on your left is the current ward makeup. It's kind of difficult to see, but on your right is a picture of the way that the committee has proposed that the board adopt for the realignment of the wards. And I think we discussed this at a meeting a month ago, and we made some minor changes as suggested by commissioners. We were able to accommodate those, and we're now ready to, with board concurrence and following any questions from the public or from members of the board, if it's favorably considered tonight, to send it on to the county and let them do their thing. So, our total population is 26,736. The ideal ward size is 2,971. So, and as far as next steps, after the hearing, we'll be able to get it off to the county, and there's there's a couple things that need to happen there. It needs to get the blessing of the county commissioners. Mr. Fieser and his staff were already involved, along with the GIS staff graciously offered by the county commissioners to help us. And then if it needs to go to the Court of Common Pleas, it will do that for that blessing. So there's a lot of moving parts in this process. This was, in my view, and the committee members can feel free to pile on, is that this was a much easier process than we had 10 years ago. And I think it's because of the county's involvement. So we really do thank you, Mr. Fieser, for your help. And next is the important part, which is communication with the voters who are going to be affected. And I would say that it's going to be a very small percentage of our voters that are going to be affected by this. But every voter is significant, and they're going to feel, I want to go again, got to change the polling place. But after 10 years, you get used to it, and then it's time to change it again. Next slide, please. So, assuming a positive vote tonight, the changes will take effect January 1st, 2023. And but this is so important to note for everybody in the audience and for television. This year, you will still in November go to your current polling places, unless you vote by mail. You go to your current polling place, because that's where you vote, no matter if you're affected by this or not. So that will be made clear in the materials that you were sent by the county election voter registration. So that's all I got. That's the process. That's where we are. At this point, I'd welcome any public comment that we may have. Staff, is there anything I missed?
No, sir.
Commissioners, any questions?
President, I just want to add to your appreciation, your statement about the county election office and Mr. Fieser. I appreciate all the help. It really went very well, and thank you for that. And in fact, some people in the southern part of the township will actually be closer to their voting polling place now than they were previously, so I think it's an improvement in a number of ways.
Always looking on the bright side. Anybody else have a question? Fish?
just want to say it was a pleasure to be a part of. I learned an awful lot. I thought we could just, shift neighborhoods, but no, you have to be adhere to census blocks, for example. That was a lesson to me. But you brought it up before, but to the credit of the U.S. Census Bureau, they had actually done a nice job of kind of breaking them down and giving us a little more flexibility than what we had previously. So it was a great process to engage in. Thanks to you. Thank you to Commissioner Pine. Thanks to the county for just an incredible amount of assistance and our staff as well. So really appreciate the team effort. Thank you.
Very good.
Anything else?
Mr. Madden. I'm done.
So we're going to move the presentation, the proof of publication, and the proposed amendment into the evidentiary record and close the hearing.
Hearing is closed. Resume our meeting, regularly scheduled meeting. And at this point, the board would, the chair would entertain the motion on the realignment of the ward boundaries as presented here.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Rothrock, seconded by Commissioner Knapper. Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all. Mr. Drees. Good job. We're shifting around the schedule a little bit. Thank you. Very special guest.
You want me to take some more? Yeah, I'll do it. Okay. The 75, you take it, that'd be really good. You can just pick one.
Okay, at this time, I would like to ask emergency medical dispatcher Samantha Giovango and Monica T-Way and her son Enoch to come on ahead. Take them out of there, you can show them off better. So how this took place, I stopped at the back of public safety building one early morning, and the ambulance was pulling in, and they said they just came back from emergency childbirth. I said, oh, great, did you guys deliver the baby? No. Also, the police department got there first, and they delivered the baby. No. Well, we didn't get a call, so the fire department didn't deliver the baby. So, in talking to the paramedic from Susquehanna Township EMS, he said the baby was delivered as soon as they went out the door of the station. And he said every single thing that could be done for that child was done before they got there. So I have citations, the first ever that we've given for a dispatcher citation for a life-giving award for childbirth. And it's going to go to not only Samantha, the dispatcher at the time, but also to Monaco and her son Enoch, because they did play a part. So with that said, I have two options. I can either read the citation, but I would rather read, with your blessings, I'd rather read the letter that Mom sent to me, okay, asking what her thoughts were about the whole incident. Here it goes. As an expecting parent, while you await the arrival of your child, you make plans on how you want your delivery to go. From the type of environment to whom you want the delivery room as your support person. On July 10th, all my plans were thrown out the window when I found myself in active labor alone at home. I called 911 with the intention of having EMTs take me to labor and delivery once they arrived. When the dispatcher answered the call, she remains calm during the entire length of our conversation. I was crying out urgently that the baby was coming. She helped me stay focused. She talked me through every step. She explained the position that I should be in and to support the baby's head. When I told her that I had no towels, I couldn't go to the bathroom to get any, without hesitation, she immediately said, take off the shirt I had on and use it to wrap the baby when he arrived. She was my thought when I couldn't think for myself. She did it with so much grace and compassion. She remained focused and calm which kept the saturation under control. As a dispatcher, her job does not include being there to see the excitement on my face when I held my baby for the first time, or getting updates letting you know that the baby that we both delivered is a healthy newborn with no complications. I honestly don't even remember thanking her. I am honored to have been given this opportunity to simply say how appreciative I am to you. A million thank yous for taking care of me through the delivery from start to finish. You played an important role in my life, July 10th, and you are wonderful at it. I am forever grateful. Are you gonna hold that? I tell you what, then, you got them both?
I got mine.
Okay. Look that way first, and then we're gonna turn everything around and go the other way.
All right.
Okay, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go this way. All right, you gotta face this way. Enoch, you gotta turn around and face this way.
Okay, everybody smile. And one more. Thank you.
He's a Red Sox fan.
Smile through the tears.
Thank you.
You want to go outside? You want to talk to them outside? Yeah. You guys want to go outside and talk to them?
See you, Jerry.
Jerry, you should get the reinforcement award.
I mean, sure. I was gonna say, you want to put you in man. See you, Jerry.
Sorry.
Where were we?
Ready to adjourn, thanks.
No. You're wishful thinking. Do some more business. Old business, stormwater rate reductions, park headquarters. Assistant Manager Logan.
Thank you. Provided with your agenda is a memo from myself requesting a waiver for Susquehanna Township stormwater from the stormwater ordinance for the 38 by 38 concrete pad that was poured for the fit court at Veterans Park. As part of Chapter 19 of the Stormwater Management Ordinance, you can request a waiver for having to do volume controls and a site plan and report for approval. The fit court is 444 square feet over the limit of where you need to apply for or have a stormwater management plan, volume controls, and a report. And so the staff is requesting that you provide a waiver to the township for that requirement. The memo does describe the situation. The pit court is on a fairly level area that's vegetated, and it has direct runoff to pervious areas.
Okay, and what you're looking for is?
We're recommending that the board approve the waiver from the stormwater management report.
So I move that we grant the waiver for the concrete pad installation waiver of the stormwater management.
Second by Commissioner Pine. Any questions or comments?
Yes. Estimated completion date time?
Planned installation is October 19th. It will probably be a few days,
Okay.
because they have to set the equipment. Well, they gotta set the rubberized tile, that takes a day or so to cure, and then they'll set the equipment afterwards.
Okay. You'll be giving a presentation during that ribbon cutting?
Yes, as part of this whole grant process, National Fitness Challenge campaign will also be assisting us in doing a media blitz and ribbon cutting. So there'll be some accolades to go around for everybody shortly.
Great job, Doug.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments or questions? All right, all those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Before we go to new business, let's complete our reports. Township manager, do you have anything?
Thank you, Mr. President. My report is in your packet, and I'll let that stand. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Good. Public safety, police? Anything? Nothing there? Public works? It's not the Cowboys, is it?
No. Just one quick thing, Commissioners. Street sweeping does commence at the end of this week. We are going to go into Monday, being that there was a holiday and Fridays would be missed. So we're going to do Fridays on Monday, so we can focus on gearing up for leaf season startup and the last final blacktop restorations we can do before we cannot get blacktop anymore. And the reports in the packet if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anything on the engineering front? Alex?
No, sir, Mr. President, you all have my report. If there's any questions, I'll certainly happy to address them.
Small Bureau, supposed to come in.
Nothing from us.
School Board?
No report.
All right. No. Fire Commissioner Knapp? Oh, no report, sir. All right. Shade Tree Commissioner Rod?
Yeah, Mr. President, I want to report that there's been something of a change in protocol in the process of removal of tree permits, or the permits for removal of trees. Pulling in a certified arborist, but I'd like to defer to the manager if I could about the process and how this works, if you would.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Pine. So the only real change, I guess, to past practice is that I've directed an assessment be done when a resident is requesting to have a public tree removed by a certified arborist. This takes out the potential for a tree being removed that might appear to be dead or dying, but perhaps is not, or is showing some other kind of symptoms. And it also may help to give us a little bit of an insight if there's any potential outbreaks of tree diseases that might extend to trees beyond just the subject tree. So things like oak wilt, emerald ash borer, hemlock adelgid, these are things that if they infect a tree are very likely to infect a grove of trees in the vicinity, and having a qualified arborist conduct an assessment when a request for removal has been submitted to the township for the purposes of making a recommendation to the tree commission will be useful in getting ahead of any potential outbreaks, and will also help to guard against any unnecessary removal of the street tree, because these are public assets. They're very, in many cases, very expensive public assets that have a lot of value. So it's important that any decision to remove one of them be done in an informed manner by an individual who's qualified to make such a recommendation. So as far as the process goes, an applicant will still submit the request as they have in past years. It would still be considered by the Shade Tree Commission, so that nothing has changed with respect to that. The only, as I said, the only addition has been that a qualified arborist, and in this case, we have a retainer agreement with Bartlett Tree Service to conduct these assessments on request. They'll come out, they'll do the assessment, provide the report to the tree commission to help guide their decision and whether or not to approve the request to remove that tree.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right. Thank you. Communications.
Mr. President, our newsletter, the first draft has just been returned from the printer, and it's looking very good. There's good articles on a new planning zoning administrator, codes updates, manager's blog, Public Works Department update, an extensive recreation programs report. I guess the newsletter will be going, I want to thank Recreation Director Doug Knaus for the work on the newsletter. It's looking really good. And I guess it will go back to the printer with our changes, corrections, and what have you, and then should be out within a few weeks, presumably. Printed?
Mid-October is the.
Oh, okay. Okay, so you're playing time.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all.
Human Relations, anything, Commissioner Israel?
No report.
Thank you. Parks and Rec? Anything else? Russ?
I talked now.
Okay. We have 3 items on the consent agenda. One is a statement of bills paid. The other is the authorization to hire Grace Hogue as customer service specialist. And finally, financial security reduction request for Enclave at Elmerton in the amount of $924,996. And I assume that means with your muster? Correct, Alan?
Yep, yes, sir.
Okay, so there's 3 items on the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion or questions on any item in the agenda, consent agenda? Here, none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is authorization for a public hearing on a liquor license transfer application for 59 North Progress Avenue, property doing business as the Susquehanna Lounge and Cafe LLC. Mr. Provoca.
Thank you, Mr. President. Board has with your agenda packet an application for an intermunicipal liquor license transfer that, as President Lynch indicated, was submitted by Shisha Lounge and Cafe for a property at 59 North Progress Avenue. The license transfer request currently resides in the city of Harrisburg, so it's still within Dauphin County. Staff is recommending that the board authorize the advertisement of a public hearing on the requested liquor license transfer application for Thursday, October 13th. We already have another scheduled liquor license transfer public hearing for that same evening. That was 99 Walnut Enterprises. That was considered by the board at the last meeting. There's a recommended motion in your packet. We're happy to answer any questions. Just a reminder that this evening we're not asking you to approve the transfer, just to authorize the public hearing. We'll proceed with the appropriate advertisements and notice requirements as required by law.
Okay, is there a motion on the advertisement for October 13th?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Engel.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Napper. It's voting. Any comments or questions? All's in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Application for grease trap variance, Potato Coop LLC. Ms. Lovett?
Evening.
Good evening, Jill.
No, I'm not up here much, am I? The prospective tenants of a unit located in Union Green, Susquehanna Union Green, are seeking a variance from the township to permit the installation of a grease trap smaller than the 1,000-gallon minimum requirement of the township ordinance. The Potato Coop LLC is an establishment that will be located potentially at Unit 4A at 2615 Town Road. The applicant agreed to install a smaller grease trap interceptor that will have the capacity to handle twice the flow. The authority has already approved the variance request at their July meeting, and staff is recommending approval of the same this evening by the board.
Move the grant.
Moved by Commissioner Pine.
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Israel. Any discussion or questions?
Yeah, I had a couple of questions.
Yes, sir.
Reading this over, it looked to me like what they're proposing is 100 gallons or 95 gallons or something like that, which seemed to me to be a pretty big difference between the 1,000 that our ordinance apparently require. And being a potato coop, I presume they're going to be making lots of French fries, you know?
The capacity in the Trapzilla grease interceptor is a 525-pound minimum 71.9 gallon grease capacity and a 95 gallon liquid capacity. Based on their submittal that's been reviewed, that would be about approximately twice the capacity that they will need for their operation. I really am not an expert to verify that, but at least that's what they submitted for the record.
Yeah, during the authority's review, the engineer reviews that as well and goes over the flow to make sure that the grease trap that they are proposing meets their business needs or whatever. It would exceed whatever they are planning on making on their menu.
Kind of makes me wonder if maybe our ordinance is a little bit over.
Yes.
Yeah, we can't get them on that, or who the heck?
Well, and we get these requests seemingly fairly often.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it does beg the question, is a 1,000-gallon grease trap reasonable for this day and age with
Yeah.
current restaurant operations the way they are?
It just seemed to be, I'm thinking lots of french fries, we have a requirement, and they're, I mean, at least in the gallons, they're about 10th the size of what our requirement is. Makes me wonder what's out of whack here, you know.
Well, I know from my discussion with the engineer on the authority, this particular grease trap interceptor that they proposed is actually newer technology than what is out there, what has been installed, from my understanding.
Okay, is this in the Salva? Where is this?
No, this is located in the ordinance regarding wastewater disposal. So it's a authority regulation, but the ordinance itself is in our codes, but it's not a subdivision land development regulation. That's why they have to get a variance from the authority.
Should we take another look at that requirement in terms of maybe modernizing it?
Yeah, I mean, I know this definitely comes up pretty frequently with restaurants. I think the Chick-fil-A, I think they're doing 3,000 gallon grease traps. So I'm not sure what the right number is. Obviously, they do a very high capacity. But yeah, we can definitely look at it.
The smaller ones have a very higher rate of removal. So they use different hydromechanical movements to remove grease. The traditional are just basically square boxes with baffles, and it's a lot slower process. Hence, you need a bigger.
The ordinance perhaps could address both types or whatever technology is out there. It doesn't have to be this one shoe fits all. We may want to modify it to consider the other kinds of technology that's out there and give options to somebody so they can pick and choose, and that would be the other way to get around that.
Yeah, I think that, doing the waiver or the variances seem to be the easiest method that the engineer has pursued, looking at like setting it a lower capacity. I think that was all in place before probably any of us were here, so we can definitely talk to THG about it.
Yeah, it was updated, I don't know, thinking maybe 7, 8 years ago. Because this issue's come up a lot before. It's a cost issue for a lot of them, but it's also a size issue for some. Because they can't be stored outside, there's no place to dig, couldn't store it under a sink, any number of issues. But there was a modification done, and I can't put it down right now. But, for my own purposes, we've been such, as an authority, members of the authority, been such pit bulls on grease, because it really does mess up your system. And our engineer is hyper vigilant on, he is very conservative in terms of what he recommends for approval.
And I think you want it to be conservative.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
sure.
Yeah.
Well, I noticed too that the agreement puts the burden on the applicant and the operator of the business. If there is a problem, they're going to have to take care of fixing it. So I think that gives us, at least gives me a little more comfort that we can go ahead. I I just was curious, it seemed to be so far out of whack, and it seemed like a business that would generate a lot of grease.
No, it's a great question. Yeah.
I'm ready to vote now.
Did we move this and second it?
Yes. No.
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 Seconded, you didn't.
Yeah, there was no.
Did I miss it? Oh, I
Yeah, I
apologize.
seconded it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about French fries now.
Any other discussions or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Grease, thank you. Okay.
I even flipped it to your
We'll,
side.
we'll deploy a whole team to do field research on this issue. We'll be exploring various.
Operation French fry.
French fry, yeah. Well, full report. But
Freedom fries, sorry.
I will apologize. This is actually, I think, a regulation in our food services ordinance. Or both.
Next up is the contract potential for, to get some water over the highway garage. Ray, you want to just tee this up a little bit?
Yes, sir. The township requested assistance from HRG to develop a scope of work and obtain pricing for qualified vendors to install water service to the Public Works Maintenance Garage. Currently, potable water is provided to the garage from a well located on site. I'm going to correct that, it's non-potable water. However, projected demand and concerns about water quality support connecting the facility to the public water system provided with the agenda is a summary of the scope of work and quotes received by HRG of the project. Staff is recommending that the board award the contract to JLB Construction Incorporated in the amount of $16,278. If awarded, staff will coordinate with Capital Region Water to ensure plumbing will be acceptable per their standards. We recommend a motion that the Board of Commissioners award the contract for the highway garage water service connection project to JLB Construction in the amount of $16,278.
So moved.
Second. Moved by Commissioner Engel, second by Commissioner Napper. Any questions or comments? I have one. The soccer field house situated next to the Public Works garage? Familiar with
Yes.
that? Okay. They used to connect their water by way of a hose to the township garage. So,
It's an underground line. We have to turn it on inside our facility. They will be connected to the new water source as
so
well.
it'll be connected as well.
This is just getting water to the building. Once the water's in the building, we will have to get a plumbing contractor in to do all the connections to what we want to be on city, water versus, I'd like to still continue to use the well to fill flush trucks and sweepers. We're not paying, which I've talked to Capital Region Water, which is against their ordinance, but they're willing to allow us to do so.
That makes a lot of sense. But as far as the soccer support,
They will be off the, what I'm gonna call clean water.
so it'll be potable.
Correct.
Okay. And that's not a township owned facility, right? I don't think it is. No.
My understanding is it's not.
I mean, if it's something we want to bill, I'm going to be adding a meter to our building so we can separate what the park versus Public Works garage uses water usage wise. It would just be a matter of adding an additional meter to the line leaving the facility.
I don't know. That history there is murky for me. So,
It's new for me completely.
yeah. But, so I would leave it up to you to discuss it with Betsy and Dave, see which way you want to go.
I mean, ultimately, you'll get to see what that is once we get the pricing for the plumbing, because the meter cost will be included. I know meters, when I priced for one of the other facilities, meters from 4 years ago went up about 650%. So the amount of water usage, I don't know what their usage is up there, to be honest with you, but like cost effectiveness, it may or may not be worthwhile pursuing.
Gotcha. Any other questions? 650%.
But wouldn't we want to know how much water they're using and why are we paying for it for a building that we don't own?
Well, right now, we're getting the water for free because we're pumping it out of the ground.
Correct.
But it's not, it's bad water.
Yeah.
I mean, I can get pricing, I mean, these were pricing on a Capital Region water certified meter that they're gonna use to be able to bill us. We can get from RF Faggers or one of these other vendors, one that we can do in-house billing, that, you know, once a month, we pull the data off the meter and it's a significant savings.
They didn't do anything like irrigate the soccer field up there, do they?
No, this field is not irrigated. We do have a sprinkler system above ground. And actually, we're in the process right now. We have to replace the well pump for us to utilize that system. The well pump was well over 20 years old and was not getting enough flow to get us the water to the soccer field. Because I tried to water them during the summer before we were in the drought warning, and we didn't get enough flow to operate the system. So there is no in-ground system there.
So the watering system for all fields up are off a separate well house with a separate well. So that wouldn't be all city water either.
Okay. It's all free. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Nate. Yes, sir. Commissioner comments. Who wishes to comment?
Mr. President?
Yes, sir.
I would just like to wish my daughter Emily a happy 10th birthday today.
Happy birthday, Emily. Happy birthday. Anybody else wish to? Mr. Hisro just had a birthday. It's all about it on Facebook. And it was raining, so it couldn't off.
Turned 39 yesterday.
Hey, twice. There he is.
We're the same age.
All right, no other comments. The chair would entertain a motion to what we call adjourn, Fred.
Move to adjourn.
Second. Right. Second by Commissioner Pine. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Fred?